All right, welcome back to Talk Yours podcast. We haven't been here in 2 or 3 years, so this is very refreshing. New scenery, new everything, and we are just super excited and encouraged to just talk basketball. It hasn't been like this in 2 or 3 years. We've tried videos, trivia, and all that kind of stuff. I think this is kind of where the root of it all was,
Yeah, no, we just started talking about this again, and we both got really excited about it because I think at the core of all this, we just love talking basketball. Whether it's on camera or just in a casual setting. So opportunity to do this was just really exciting. So,
and I think it's different. I feel like a lot of people who talk about basketball don't enjoy it as much, and they just want to say something. They just want to get something out there.
Oh yeah,
and it's guys I'm just gonna go and call them out. Guys like Draymond Green. Guys honestly, just anyone with a podcast. I don't know. Some of these players, I don't even want to call out Trae Young, but I don't understand why Trae Young has a podcast because the things that he talks about isn't very interesting.
That's the thing is you get a mic in front of people, and not only do they start talking for the camera and talking for the microphone, right?
Yeah.
I feel like Draymond Green has something to offer in terms of a dialogue about basketball and the NBA, especially a lot of the player dynamics and how players interact with organizations. Because I feel like those are things I've heard him speak about in the past that he's been very passionate about in press conferences and things like that. But he gets on the Draymond Green podcast and he just starts talking shit about everybody, honestly. It's all negativity. It's all, about either the old media or it's about, certain players being soft, or it just feels like there's a lot on there that he just does to either bolster himself or put other people down.
And I think it's because he's not actually paying much attention to anything else that's happening. And if you're an active NBA player, and maybe this is why Paul George is falling off a cliff, and I'm not saying Paul George's podcast was bad. I actually really enjoyed Paul George's podcast. But the problem is you don't actually have time to keep up with these things. You're not watching. You're playing basketball. You're not watching.
You have a full-time job where you're waking up, hopefully early in the morning if you're at that level. Not to say that any of those guys haven't worked extremely hard, but you're probably waking up early in the morning, spending a few hours training, then you're going to practice, you're interacting with teammates, you're at work all day, right? And then you might have a game in the evening.
Yeah.
When do you have time to pay attention to anything else going on in the NBA? If you're taking care of your body, you're getting enough sleep. I don't fault them for not knowing what's going on, but let's not act like they're like a Stephen A. Smith whose only job is to know what's going on.
And even if they are, so if they're getting fed this information to talk about, you're not Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith, even though he wasn't an athlete, he has so much years of experience. He's actually the most entertaining guy. As much as you could hate him, he is the most entertaining guy. And so if you're just getting fed this information and you're a basketball player and you've been a basketball player all year or all of your life, then you're just not going to have too much to say.
No.
And you can if you have the time. But also, these guys have families too. Keep in mind, most of them.
And I mean, some of them, well, let's be honest, we know that they're not paying a terrible amount of attention to their families, but you'd have to imagine most of them are. You'd have to imagine most of them are being, good family men. I think that's another thing people don't give Stephen A. enough credit for, because he has become an entertainer in a lot of people's eyes. But he started out as a journalist, and a really damn good journalist. That's why he is where he is now, is because, he got ahead of the curve on stories. He talked to players first. He got his into the locker room. Stephen A. Smith is entertaining, but he's also highly informed.
Yeah.
And now we just have a bunch of guys who are trying to be entertaining without being highly informed, right?
And it's just not working out. So I don't want to spend too much time spreading negativity. But
this was something we were talking about beforehand anyway, so good to get it off the chest, I guess.
All right, cool. First topic.
The big thing has got to be the MVP race.
Yeah, for
right.
Sure.
Best one in, God, who even knows how long? I don't remember one ever being number one this close, and number two, having two guys who were so far apart from the rest of the league.
It's so dynamic. It's crazy because the discourse you can talk about is Jokic is, when it comes to the stat lines, Jokic is killing everyone. He just had a 31-20-20 game, or it was really 31. Yeah, 22-21, which is just insane. And I don't want to take anything away from that, because that is a ridiculous stat line. There's a reason it got so many views, and like from people who don't even like basketball. Them just realizing what that stat line is has probably made them a Jokic fan.
Yeah.
And it's just it's that kind of guy who could fill up a stat sheet and a fantasy score versus a guy like Shai who's just doing what he needs to do to win. He's on pace for 70 wins.
Right. But what I appreciate about both of them is that neither of them feel like they're actively trying to fill up the box score, right?
Yeah.
Like when Jokic, because me and you, I remember I was watching the game with you. It was when they were, the overtime game against the Suns, 30, 20, and 20, that whole deal. I didn't even realize that's where he was at until they flashed up a box score, and it was like 28, 17, and 18 is what he had at that point. And I think that was in the fourth quarter. And it literally took me aback because when you're watching him, it looks very casual.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's why it adds to his layer of impressiveness, because everything that he does is impressive, but when you're watching it, he's literally just clocking in and clocking out. He's just doing what he needs to do, and if that happens to get him 30, 20, and 20, then so be it.
And he is literally the entire Nuggets offense. Like, that's the reason why it looks so casual, is because he's just there. Like, either he's setting a screen or he's being the ball handler. He's shooting a three. He's posting up. He's doing like every single possession he is involved in, which you actually can't say about any other NBA player.
Yeah.
The closest thing maybe was Luka on the Mavericks, or I guess you could say Trae Young right now on the Hawks, who are just that ball dominant. But it's just way different when you have to be physical every single possession, because it's either a post up or a screen, and players are killing him. And I'm never one to kind of defend. I like that the big men position is so scrappy that outside of players like let's just call it Embiid, it's a rough house. The centers don't get the same calls that every other guard does.
No, and I think that's something that they really have to adjust to when they get into the league. Like, I obviously watch a lot of Warriors games. Quentin Post is a guy who I really like. He has not yet adjusted to the fact that they are not going to call fouls, even when there are fouls in the post. If you're 7'1", they're not going to give you fouls more often than not, right? Like, there was a few times in that game against the Nets where he caught the ball in the post and had an opportunity to go to work and would turn and get swarmed, and he's getting smacked on the arms, right? But he almost, like, there's a hesitation where he's like, oh, I got hit. Where's the foul? Right? It's just not coming. When you're a big man in the NBA, you're going to get hit on the arms and you're going to get scratched. Like, if you look at Jokic's arms, I know dozens of people have noted this, but when you look at his arms, that dude looks like he just got in a fight with a tiger, like, after every game.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And I think that's also, it could just be a white thing. I'm not going to lie, that shows a lot more.
It is, because Luka looks that way too, but it just shows. And I think it's something we undervalue as NBA fans who don't play at a high level of basketball. The physicality on every play is, these guys are getting hit on the arm every play, right?
Yeah.
And some need to be called and some don't. But, we give refs a lot of crap for it. But also, like, we want some physicality too. So they are deciding in real time, like, where that line is. And I think that's tough because...
Yeah, if you called every single foul, then the game would never end.
The game would never be over. I mean, and it's hard because there are some very obvious missed calls. But I don't know. I try to think about it and give them a little more credit.
I think, if you just think about all the missed calls is the reason that you lost the game, unless it was like the last possession or like just in the last minute. I know every single possession matters in the very end of a basketball game, but it just kind of ruins the game for you if all you could think about is the referees. And I think fans that like just think about the refs and blame everything on the refs every game, it's a really tiring thing. But speaking of that, very big what happened yesterday. Yeah. So we're actually recording this between the two Nuggets Thunder games. The first game, you could say, so the OKC won by 20, but it did not feel like a 20-point win. It felt like they, and if you just looked at it at the score, it probably was like an 8-point game going to the fourth quarter.
I don't know if it was quite an 8-point game. I think it was closer than that. It might have been 8 points, but it was somewhere around there where it was like, and the game was close throughout. Like, halftime, it was a 1-point game. It was a close game. Throughout, and then OKC just really pulled away at the end, right?
Yeah, it was such an impressive. I'm not gonna say, like, honestly, let's just talk about that game. Shooting wise, both Shai and Jokic struggled from three. I mean, I think Shai ended like 2 for 11 and Jokic 1 for 9. I think.
I think Jokic hit 2.
Oh, did
I think he was 2 for 9. But yeah, no, it was something like that. And I remember watching it and almost get the feeling of like, for two guys who claim they don't really care about individual awards, they're sure trying hard to prove that they're the MVP by taking this many threes because Shai only takes 6 a game. Jokic only takes 4 or 5.
Yep.
They hit that number in the first quarter.
They were chucking that thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say it was completely unnecessary threes. It's especially Jokic normally takes just smart threes because teams are more willing to give it to him. Shai, on the other hand, and this just goes to show, Shai had 40 points and he struggled from three. It just tells you he nearly didn't miss when it came to the 2-point line. That dude was hitting mid-ranges like crazy. And the fact that anyone says that his game isn't fun to watch, to me personally, I understand you have the foul baiting, but a lot of Shai's foul baiting to me is just getting people on pump fakes. And it's that's just basketball at the end of the day.
My dad brought up a good point about that. Or he didn't so much bring up a good point as it made me realize something about why people don't enjoy watching Shai. And it's because he plays highly efficient basketball with his movements, right? Guys like Anthony Edwards, who people love to watch, he'll make 5 moves in one play, right?
Yeah.
He'll stop on his pivot foot. He'll spin a few times. He'll pump fake. He'll go up for a floater. Shai has and it's not that he doesn't have a lot of moves. It's just that he has go-to moves that are really efficient and really effective. So why would you do anything else? Every time I see him, or most of the times I saw him take a 3 yesterday, he was taking them in the same way, which was in, out, and then just kind of step, not really even a step back, just a drawback into the 3. Yeah. Right? And it creates space and it lets him get the 3 off. Is it exciting to watch? No, because you know what he's going to do when he comes down the court. It's just that it works every time. It's impressive to watch. It's not exciting to some people because there's not a ton of novelty to it, right? You watch him for a quarter and it's you get what he's doing. It's just super impressive because they can't stop it.
And it's crazy how everyone, at least I talk to, looks back and talks about how they didn't appreciate James Harden, but some of them don't want to appreciate Shai right now. And what Shai's doing is more entertaining than what Harden did.
And it's always the same deal. And it's the same deal with Harden. It's the same deal with Shai. It's the same deal with, if I may be so bold, Joel Embiid.
Yeah.
Because when you talk about offensive skill, scoring-wise from the center position, I don't know how many guys you can definitively say are better than Joel Embiid all time. But when you get calls and when you use the rules to your advantage, it kind of taints your game a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
If you don't have the right aura, I suppose, because Kobe did that and Iverson did that. But, people don't look at their games in a worse light because of it.
And again, people just have more resources to watch what's actually going on. There's no way back in the 2000s people were watching every game of Kobe, or maybe Kobe was always on TV though. At least Iverson, people weren't watching Iverson play the terrible, who was a bad, I'm assuming the Hornets were pretty bad in the 2000s.
When were they not bad? No, I'm sorry. I'm actually I don't think that's something you have to speculate about because when the 90s is when the Hornets were
Larry Johnson.
Larry Johnson, Glenn Rice.
But outside of that,
Del Curry. Did they have Kerry Kittles at that time, or am I thinking of somebody else? No, that was New Jersey. New Jersey had Kerry Kittles. Yeah. But no, I think that's so true, and I've talked to you about this too. Just the overexposure of the NBA, how crazy it is that not only can you watch every single game, but you also don't even have to watch the games anymore to see what happened in it.
Yeah.
Right? You just go to the highlights. And this is another problem. I don't know if I brought this up with you or not, but another problem that I think the NBA has is you have these highlight reels that is just incredible defensive plays and people making shots. And then people go and turn on an actual game after watching those and keeping up with those for most of the season. And they're like, damn, these teams suck. Because in their mind, the highlights is the game. And I understand it's not a conscious thing, but if all you're seeing is highlights and then you go and watch an actual game, you're going to be disappointed. You're going to think guys are bad.
Yeah. You know what pisses me off is I actually saw a Twitter post recently talking about, and I know Twitter's ruined with bots and everything, but it was this video of a bunch of NBA players traveling, and then someone said, "This is why I don't watch the NBA anymore." But what the funniest part was, the video clips were from 2016. Yeah. I'm not even kidding. It had the clip of Russell Westbrook pointing and just carrying the ball for 4 or 5 steps, which was called a travel, by the way. But they cut out the part where the travel was called. Oh, this is why I don't watch the NBA. And it's some people, yeah, if you watch now, like you can say people get away with carries and stuff.
Yeah.
The traveling isn't that bad. And if people just really learn the gather step, and this is another point, I think the overexposure to basketball isn't a bad thing in the right hands. I like watching basketball every single night, and I like watching bad teams. I do. But I wouldn't expect someone who doesn't really enjoy basketball to enjoy watching two crappy teams. So when for some reason, I guess in their head, they're incentivized to do that.
Yeah.
Then it kind of just pisses them off, and then it makes everything so negative. Like if you don't really like, even someone who enjoys watching basketball, I'm not gonna turn on the Hornets and Wizards, and I'm not gonna use that as an excuse to say this is why the NBA sucks and college basketball is better.
I mean, hey, I'm not gonna lie. If it's a close game, I'll turn it on.
Oh, for sure. But I'm not.
I'll watch any close game.
First quarter, if there's any other game, there's probably a lot of college basketball I'd rather watch than the Wizards Hornets. But you take two good teams, and I think there's nothing to complain about.
No, Corbin, and you know why people who don't like basketball are watching those games from the first quarter? There's only one reason why.
Why?
Gambling.
Oh yeah,
100%. It's really just, and I hate to say like, oh, it's killed the pure enjoyment of the game, because I feel like you can still enjoy watching basketball and have a little bit of skin in the game. It's when you're betting on like, God, I don't even know, like who's that one dude on the Mavs now who's like Brandon Williams.
Yeah.
If you're betting on Brandon Williams now and you're watching the Mavs with no AD, no Kyrie, and obviously no Luka, you're not going to have a good time. I'm sorry. That's not like Clay might go off and it might be a fun game. But if you're like betting on these bench players on bad teams to do well because the line looks good, you're not going to enjoy watching the game. You're going to be in it for maybe like the 10, 12 minutes that they're in the game. And then other than that, you're just going to be waiting for them to get back in the game.
I haven't seen any highlights of Brandon Williams, but I picked him up in fantasy, and he's been doing good.
He's been hooping. I know he got hurt in the last game.
Yeah, he
did. Speedy recovery to him, but he's been hooping recently.
Yeah. But yeah, we did get kind of sidetracked. Did you watch that whole game?
I did. I watched the whole game. Did you?
I did.
Yeah.
I think. Oh yeah. So what I was gonna say though is Chet Holmgren with like 5 minutes left. I forget who it was, but he just blatantly fouled someone.
It was Russ.
It was.
It was
hit him
Russ. In the face.
Just hit him in the face. He had 5 fouls. The
right in front of the ref too.
And then like you would think like, I know flopping happens in the NBA.
Yeah.
But Russ isn't just gonna go down if he wasn't getting hit in the face.
And I'm sorry, I have never, in all my time having watched the NBA, and someone, correct me if I'm wrong, please engage with the video. Send something in the comments. But I have never in my time watching the NBA seen a guy grab his face when he didn't get hit in the face and just like give up the ball.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I just, you don't see that. Sure, flopping, grabbing your arm, like, whatever. Every time a guy grabs his face, he gets hit in the face. I just feel like it's such a natural human reaction. There's no other circumstances where you would do that and potentially just give up the ball.
Especially, I think you need to give a guy like Russ just the benefit of the doubt.
Oh yeah.
If it's a guy who's known for flopping, I mean, let's be real. I'm not gonna say I love LeBron, but I respect LeBron. If it's LeBron, maybe sometimes you don't have to. Even though recently LeBron has not been flopping at all. Like,
no.
He just has that reputation from like the 2010s. But
I feel like part of LeBron's reputation is that he complains about calls, but most of the time he's right.
Yeah,
that's the problem. But the other problem is the same thing we talked about earlier, where it's like, well, a foul's going to occur on most plays, so it's like you got to pick your battles a little bit. But with guys like you see Jokic do it a lot too. Like, there's no doubt that they're getting fouled by the letter of the law. It's just that you have to recognize that that's not always going to, swing that way for you, just the same way as you're going to commit fouls, and it's not always going to swing that way for the other team.
Yeah, I think actually the goal of defense in basketball really is it isn't to foul someone, but it's to foul someone in like a very sneaky kind of way. That's always how I play basketball, actually. Like I will foul you,
I know.
but you can't make it obvious. I think one thing Jokic does on defense that makes me mad is he won't get a call on one end, and then he'll just like obviously foul someone right after on defense, and it's like, and then he'll start complaining.
I think it's funny.
Like, and he's like, oh, well, you called it for them, why not for me? But like, it was like such a slick thing.
Yeah.
What other players do to him, and then Jokic, will just straight up just like use his whole arm to defend someone, and it's like you can't do that. Like Jokic,
why not? A foul's a foul.
It's so fun. Like I don't know if people forget, but I'm just gonna say, let's just say people forget. People forget that 2 years before they won the championship, when the Nuggets were playing the Suns, this Jokic is kind of an emotional dude. Like, let's be real. Like, he lets his emotions get the best of him.
Hey, man.
But he's so talented, sometimes it doesn't matter.
If someone else was threatening my job position, I'd be mad too. That's my livelihood.
Yeah.
I need that to pay for my horses. But no, I think it's so funny how he cares so little about basketball at times. And then at other times, he just looks like the biggest basketball psycho you've ever seen in your life.
I know.
You
I
know?
love it. I
Yeah.
don't find myself rooting for Jokic, but I mean, he's a cool guy to have as the best player in the league.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people, including my dad, who like really respect that. You know, he doesn't care that much about being like. So sometimes I find myself where I'm like, oh, I feel like if you're the best player in the world, you should really, you know, honor that. You should care about that. You should, you know, talk about the NBA in such a good light and all this kind of stuff. But some people like how just nonchalant, just I'm just gonna clock in, clock out, and that's my day. So some people like it. But yeah, back to the game.
Yeah,
man, it was a really good game. And the Nuggets started like 12-2, 14-2 or something like that.
Yeah.
And I texted like, man, Jokic might just take the MVP this game. I'm not going to lie. I would have been, because like right now, if you ask me who was MVP, which we can both give our answer.
Yeah.
I think right now I give the slight edge to Shai, but I don't think it's some crazy lead or anything. I think this next game that by the time this comes out, people will know what happened. But Jokic can kind of overtake him because the head-to-head games, as much as they shouldn't matter, they do.
No, they really do. I mean, they brought up a good point yesterday on the broadcast, which, you know, you always gotta look out for those because sometimes it is just for entertainment's sake.
Yeah.
But they brought up a good point, which is that the race is so close between Shai and Jokic that these games are what's going to influence it. It's the big games coming down the stretch and how you perform in those, because those are kind of a prelude to how you're going to perform in the playoffs.
Yeah. Those games and just recency bias is very huge.
Because I feel like right now they're pretty neck and neck. I mean, depending on the source you look at, you're going to get a different answer. Me personally, I give the edge to Jokic right now, and we can get into a little bit more of our why for that. But like you said, it's super close, and I wouldn't be mad at either guy winning the award. I think they're both highly deserving.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, no, the game was interesting because, you know, as I was watching it, I really did feel like the others for Denver were better than the others for Oklahoma City, at least throughout the first three quarters.
I felt that way too, especially like MPJ and it was a huge hit when Aaron Gordon went out in the first quarter.
Yeah,
that was terrible. But MPJ throughout the entire game, I know like his field goal percentage wasn't that good, but I felt his impact.
He was playing aggressive, and that's something you don't see a lot from him. That's something I wish I saw more from him because he's 6'10" with a handle. Like, you know, if he just put his mind towards getting to the rim 5 times a game, I think he'd be even more effective. But no, he played aggressive. He played downhill on a couple possessions. He got to the rim. You know, Jamal Murray had an okay game. I think he was a little bit not aggressive enough at times, and that might have been a product of Brown and Porter Jr., which, let me just say, Christian Brown, Derek White 2.0. I mean, he's not quite Mr. Perfect, but he's close.
I think people would hate Christian Brown if he was on the Celtics and he was in Derek White's shoes. It'd be the same thing. It's because honestly, like Lakers fans do hate the Nuggets, but besides them, not many teams really hate the Nuggets. You know, Nuggets are a pretty like neutral team.
I mean, I don't feel one way or the other about them. Honestly, I mean, I probably feel a little more positively about them because I like watching them. But
yeah,
I mean, it's and not to say that location matters too much, but they're in Denver. It's like they're not part of one of these big historic rivalries. They're not getting a ton of coverage throughout the season, so people don't get sick of hearing about them like they do about the Lakers, or the Warriors, or the Celtics, or the Knicks, or any of these coastal teams. They're just kind of like there. They just do their thing, you know. Maybe they'll go mess around and win a championship. Who knows? Maybe they'll have the greatest center of all time on their team. Who knows? But
we'll see.
Yeah.
I also love because I see a lot of complaints of just random cities. NBA teams near them just getting blacked out, like 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah.
I'm so glad we live in Utah. I'm so glad I've never had an issue with the Nuggets being blacked out.
Yeah.
In Utah, because I hate that I can't. Even though luckily the Jazz aren't very good anymore, so I don't want to watch too many of their games. But whenever I go to watch a Jazz game, it's like really I got to turn on the very illegal stream that I use. That's super legal.
Right. River West or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that. But what was this? Oh yeah, by the way, before I forget, just shout out Tim Legler, dude. Such a good commentator, bro.
I like him. I feel like he has not fallen into like trying to be too entertaining.
Yeah,
during the
he
broadcast.
just gives good basketball analysis, and it's because like, I mean, look at the dude. He had to be a smart guy to operate in the NBA when he was a player. He was not a very athletic dude.
No, I mean he wasn't. But like, I love how one of the things I love, and we keep getting distracted, so I'll make this last point. But one thing I love about seeing these guys in broadcast roles or analyst roles after their career is done is it just shows how smart the average NBA player is, or above average NBA player, but just how smart you have to be to play in the NBA.
Yeah.
At most levels, right? It reminds me of like when people listen to quarterbacks talk, and all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, I guess they're really smart." Like, no, they're not stupid. They're playing probably one of the, I guess, two hardest positions on the field mentally, that and center.
Yeah. And I didn't say quarterback's one, but yeah, go ahead.
I mean, it's just a different center. It's interesting. It depends on the dynamic of the team. Yeah. Because sometimes the center is calling out checks in the same way the quarterback is.
Yeah, and they are like the captain of the.
But yeah, I mean, obviously the quarterback, you're getting the ball in your hands every possession. So, making that decision, knowing what to do with it.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop myself before I go on an NFL tangent because, there's a good amount to say about that too. But getting back to the MVP conversation.
What's your argument? Yeah. Let's both make our claims.
I think Jokic is the MVP. And to me, that was even highlighted by the game yesterday. And the reasoning for that is Shai is a great, great player, right? And what he's doing in terms of the impact for his team is incredible. I think his presence as a defender is slightly overrated because of who he's surrounded by. Like when I watch Thunder games, they're so good defensively that Shai might be the third best perimeter defender on the floor.
Oh, for sure.
A good amount of time. I mean, I wouldn't say he's fourth, but even overall defensive impact, if you have Dort, Jalen Williams, and Chet Holmgren on the floor with Shai, there's an argument to be made that Shai is the fourth best defender out of that group, right? And that's not to say he's a bad defender by any means, but in terms of the defensive load he has to take on for the Thunder, I think it is actually comparable in some way to Jokic because Jokic is still a presence inside. No, he's not going to guard anybody one-on-one. So if you're arguing from a talent perspective, Shai is the much more talented defender. But in terms of the actual defensive load that they each take on their team, I think Jokic takes on a similar load in being the singular paint presence for the Nuggets. And that's number one. And I think he does a good job of that because he clogs passing lanes, he gets steals in the paint. And he was actually rim protecting decently yesterday. I mean,
he was both Shai and Jokic at 4 blocks.
No, I know.
But actually, okay, wait, real quick. Yeah. This is what I'm gonna do. Actually, let's take 30 seconds each.
Yeah.
All right. So I have Shai as MVP. Cam as Jokic. Just don't even mention the other MVP. Just give like a 30, 45 second tangent on what Jokic's case. Like not not including versus.
Well,
Shai
I want you to because I just talked for like a minute and
all
a
right,
half.
cool,
So
cool.
I'll go kick it off with Shai.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think Shai is MVP because he is the best player on the best team. Even though it's not record wise, the West is a lot harder of a conference versus the East, and they only have one less win than the Cavs. Mm-hmm. I feel like Shai could be doing more if he wasn't blowing out teams so much. The point differential is the highest in the NBA for the OKC Thunder. It's like 14. Mm-hmm. He could be scoring, and I think he just goes in, he does his job. He's a guard. He doesn't get many rebounds. He doesn't have to be this facilitator getting 10, 11 assists, and I don't think that should hurt him in the MVP case. I think just overall, he is the best scorer in the NBA. His 2-point efficiency is on level with Shaquille O'Neal this season, which is insane to me. Mm-hmm. He's not the best defender on his team, but it's one thing if the OKC Thunder weren't a top 2 team in the NBA. Like if they were just like a really good team and he was like the 4th best defender, it's whatever. But it's like Shai is a really good defender, even being ranked so low on like Caruso and Casey Wallace and all those guys are obviously better. Mm-hmm. But they are that dominant defensively where if he was on a team that needed his defense, he would show it more, and it would just show more. I think he's just being the best scorer on the best team in the NBA. That's my kind of definition of MVP. I don't see that many times in NBA history where that was the case, and I wouldn't have them winning MVP.
No, and that's totally fair. This is why I think Jokic is the MVP. Number one, he's the best player on what will probably end up being the second best team in the West when it comes right down to it. And yes, there's a difference between 1 and 2, but still being in that top 2, there's a distinction between them and the rest, right? When you watch the Nuggets play, everything runs through Jokic. Everything. And no matter what happens on that possession, even if he's not getting an assist or scoring, everything is contingent upon what Jokic does on that possession. I mean, he's essentially, like a control tower at an airport. Clock it. New nickname. But
that's fire. Control tower.
The control tower. But everything, screens, high post presence, spacing, for everything is contingent upon his position on the court, his presence, and his ability to occupy space, even when he doesn't have the ball and he's not scoring and he's not assisting, right? Not to mention the number of times the Nuggets will get a second possession, either from him getting an offensive rebound or from the fact that 2 guys have to go to him to box him out, which frees up, guys like Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter Jr. to come in and grab a board, or Christian Brown to come in and grab a board, right? And so when I watch the Nuggets, there is simply no better definition of most valuable player than a player who that team would be completely lost without, right? The Thunder would still be pretty good without Shai. They wouldn't be the best team, but you could make an argument that they would be like, in that 7-8 range, which is, as you see from the teams that are there, pretty solid. But the Nuggets without Jokic, I don't even see them in the play-in, to be honest with you. Jamal Murray might finally get that all-star that he's been waiting on for his whole career, but I see them around the Trailblazers, honestly, because literally everything has to run through Jokic, and the spacing that everyone gets is contingent upon his ability to execute what he has to do on the court.
Okay. So we both made our arguments. You already kind of made a little bit of I didn't say anything, but you kind of counter-argued versus Shai. I just do want to ask something. And it's just about the MVP award in general, because the MVP award, there's no official definition, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. So you saying, because your argument is this isn't your only argument, but one of your arguments is without Jokic, the Nuggets are a play-in team or even lower. Yeah. Because the Blazers aren't even a play-in team. Where is Cade Cunningham in the MVP discussion? Because if you talk about specifically that definition, he'd have to be number 3. He'd have to be number 3.
He's higher than people will give him credit for. I don't think you can put him at number 3 because the MVP is a mixture of statistical performance and overall contribution to the team. But I definitely think, where would I put him?
Because would you put him the Bucks would still be a decent team without Giannis.
Yeah, but I wouldn't put him above Giannis because, we see what Giannis is doing statistically. But beyond that, I mean, who's 4th in the MVP discussion right now? Tatum?
Probably
not Mitchell, because again, the statistical performance does not equate to the performance of the team, right?
Then you'd say Tatum.
Probably Tatum. Where there's an argument.
A lot of people would have Donovan Mitchell though.
I mean, you could. So let's say you have Donovan Mitchell at 5. 6 could be Cade Cunningham, or it could be Anthony Edwards. It could be one of those guys. Steph has not been, and trust me, I love Steph, has not been consistent enough for the whole year to even be close to that conversation. So the people that are trying to throw him into that conversation now, I'm really glad I'm not on Twitter, because I'm sure I would see more of them. But anybody who's trying to throw him into that conversation now, just appreciate what's being done without needing to push an agenda that isn't true.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, Cade's up there for me. I mean, I'm not arguing that at all.
Cade might be 6. Actually, now that I think about it, LeBron could be up there.
LeBron could be up there.
Now that they're 3 seed now?
But I mean, the injury.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Is going to affect it a little bit.
I think it's going to be close whether he plays 65 games or not, because I think he's not quite there, but it depends on how long this injury is.
I mean, depending on how they perform without him, they might just sit him for the rest of the year, honestly.
Yeah, because they pretty much have actually, they don't really have a playoff spot totally secure.
I think I think they're pretty secured in the top 4.
I think they need at least like 3 or 4 wins, which should be possible.
I mean, I think you either want to be, and this is something we can get into at another point, but I think you either want to be 2 or you want to be 4. I don't think you want to be playing either a rested Timberwolves team or a rested Warriors team. I don't think that's who you want to be playing in round 1. I think they can certainly be both of those teams, and I don't claim that they're going to try to manipulate their standing in order to drop down to 4 if they're at 3.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, ideally you would either be 2 or 4, and you'd either be playing like the Rockets or the Grizzlies or somebody like that, or you'd be playing, a team that had to go through the play-in, which definitely it makes a little bit of a difference, especially when you get to the playoffs and one possession can make the difference in a series.
It does, and you do get more rests than your opponent if you play a play-in team. Mm-hmm. So that's probably ideal. Getting back to MVP though, I just think it's really impressive, and you probably do too. And not enough for him to win MVP, but the OKC Thunder are 4th in offense in the league. Mm-hmm. Before they were a lot worse, and I feel like if there's no Shai on that team, you might say that they're still a playoff team. Mm-hmm. And because maybe their defense still holds up. Well, they are not, like, if you look at their weapons, they are not set up for an offense whatsoever.
Oh, no.
An NBA offense whatsoever.
No, I mean, Jalen Williams can get a bucket. Chet would be less efficient, but he can
still take advantage of a mismatch. But also, Shai is so good at creating those mismatches. We've never seen Chet without Shai.
And maybe Aaron Wiggins and Case and Wallace all of a sudden,
Maybe Aaron Wiggins has been amazing this season.
But that's kind of where I draw the line for them. They're at the level then of like a Kings team, the Clippers, the Timberwolves. And I would say the Timberwolves would be better than them because Anthony Edwards and they've been hurt for a good amount of the year. Julius Randle and Rudy Gobert and them. But yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. And don't get me wrong, like this is not only arguing 2 different guys who play entirely different styles of basketball, so it's so much about your preference in terms of how you want someone to impact the game. It's also like comparing silver to gold, right?
Yeah.
Everybody else is not even in bronze if that's the case. Like everyone else is not even on the podium. So at the end of the day, both these guys deserve the MVP, right? Both these guys, I mean, how many years would one of these guys win the MVP?
Most years.
I think a lot of years. I think last year, either of these guys wins the MVP over, ironically, Jokic. Yeah. But Jokic is having a far better season this year than he did last year. I think Embiid they win it over Embiid.
Maybe like one of Giannis's years.
One of Giannis's years. Maybe one of the other Jokic years.
I even like the Harden year, like because people like. James Harden's lack of defense really turned people off.
If you're talking from a statistical perspective, then yes. But from a perspective of like Harden was definitely due that MVP.
Oh yeah, he was due.
Like he needed to get one. But that one's definitely not Russ in 2017. No. I think Russ in 2017 just people undervalue that season so much. But what he did with a Thunder team that was supposed to go nowhere, no one had done for 50 years, and broke a record that no one ever thought would be broken. I don't think
that Jokic does every season.
But that's actually close. That's actually close.
Does it hurt your MVP case if your team is better?
I think
because you look at a guy like Cade Cunningham, and his team isn't good enough for him to ever win MVP, and he's not good enough. Don't get me wrong.
It's so subjective because your team has to be good enough,
but not too good.
That's
kind of an insane criteria.
You can't be Donovan Mitchell.
And that's kind of why.
And you also can't be Jason Tatum. If you think about it, if Jason Tatum was on a worse team, he might have an MVP by now, statistically.
Even like this season.
Like a slightly worse team that still finishes top 3 in the East, and he was averaging, a few more points, a few more rebounds, a few more assists.
Yeah.
But it's a real thin line.
Maybe that's why I'm picking Shai. And both of them deserve it.
Yeah.
But Shai, it's like, his team is too good. He can't help that. Yeah. Because he's still, it's not like his team's really good and he's a top 10 player. He's a top 5, 4, 5, 3 player, in the league.
Yeah.
And because like we can talk about Jason Tatum, but Jason Tatum has never played to the point of being a top 5 player. Maybe you can say this season he's crawling up there like 6, 7.
Yeah, 6,
oh
7.
Oh my, we have to clip that. but it's like Shai is legitimately a top 3 player. Yeah. If you talk about this season, he's top 3. In general, you might say 4 or 5. You might say in general, like Giannis is better in that, and then I wouldn't blame you. Or Luka's better in general, and I wouldn't blame you.
That's a conversation.
But this season, he's better than Luka. This season,
yes. This season he's better.
With Giannis.
But
he's probably better than Giannis.
He's probably been better than Giannis this season, which sucks because Giannis is having like probably his best statistical year.
He is.
Like,
the problem is, the record. His team isn't too good. It's not good enough. Like that's.
I don't know. And I watched your video, and I can comment on this more. But you had said like Giannis has a lot to prove, right? Or not a lot to prove, but like there's still some level of like he has to prove that it does a lot for him to win with this team that he has with Dame, and there is some level of proving that he has to do. And you had mentioned that people don't pay attention to him as much because he plays in the East. Yeah. I actually think part of the reason people don't pay attention to him is because he kind of is already solidified in a lot of ways. Like everything else is just gravy at this point. He already won that championship in 21, and regardless of what people say about those finals, I mean, he had one of the best finals performances of all time. Yeah. Like at the end of the day, he went through the Nets that year, and he went through the Suns that year, and those were 2 of the best teams in the NBA, and they were playing some of their best basketball of the season at that time. I think he's got 2 MVPs. He's got a Defensive Player of the Year. He's a Finals champion and a Finals MVP. People are kind of like they've given him his flowers, right? I think that's why people don't pay attention to him. When you look at a guy like even Jokic, right? There's still that level of doubt. Like, well, look who he beat when he won a championship. Yeah. Right? When you look at Shai, well, Shai's never even been to the finals yet. He can do it in the regular season. Can he do it in the playoffs? Even Luka, right? He hasn't won that finals yet. There was some conversation around whether or not he cost them the finals in a lot of ways, which isn't true. The Boston was winning that series regardless. Yeah, their team was just too good all around. But no, so I think with these other younger guys, the conversation around them exists, maybe partially because they're in the West, but also because, they haven't gotten there yet. And Giannis has. Giannis has proven himself. And so I think people are kind of just like, oh, yeah, that's Giannis. He's just doing his thing, right?
I agree with you. I do think you're right. That's the case. But I still do think if you ask most people who's going to finish, who's the better player all time, who's it going to be, people would pick Jokic over Giannis like almost every time. That's my opinion of what I think people would say. People say Jokic is the greatest offensive player of all time. Again, I'm not going to say I'm disagreeing yet, but I do want to say Giannis could still. It's kind of like Steph Curry. Steph Curry he did not need the Finals MVP.
No,
I don't
he
think
did.
He needed it.
No, he definitely did.
But he needed it to enter top 10 conversations.
He needed it to validate his status as a great player of this generation.
I don't think he needed
it. No, I'm sorry, he did. Because if you remember all the conversations around Steph, like, and it's funny who you would ask. It was either Steph carried KD when people were trying to, say KD was a great player, or was KD carried Steph when people were trying to say Steph was a great player. Yeah. And who was saying both was, LeBron fans. But, just like before maybe you could make the argument that in 2020, 2021, when he had the year where he scored 33 a game, and would have won the MVP if his team even made the playoffs, right? Yeah. Like, you could make the argument that, sure, that year he, solidified himself as an all-time great player. But I think there was still so many conversations around that just center around the fact, like, he's undersized, he only shoots threes, can he be the best player on a championship team? And he was the best player on a championship team. He just didn't win Finals MVP when he should have, and that caused everyone to skew the argument of, oh, you need a great wing next to him. You need these other great players around him.
What is an all-time player to you? Because before he won that 4th championship, people were still saying it's either him or Magic. And I understand point guard when it comes to all-time lists. Point guards, it's weaker. Let's be honest.
I feel like, yeah, that's true.
But no one had him below. Well, unless you'd have to be like so ignorant to say like
some
Isaiah Thomas is higher.
Some people did. Some people really did. I could be misremembering it, but I really do feel like some people had him like third or fourth best point guard of all time. And like,
I was gonna say keep going.
No. So like, I don't know, it really made a difference for his legacy. Like, I guess here's the best way I can state it. He needed that championship in 2022 to elevate his status to his skill level. If that makes sense. Like, his skill level was still considered to be above his status as an all-time great. There was still a significant gap. When he won that championship and that finals MVP, that closed the gap. All of a sudden, his greatness is on par with his skill level. His skill has produced greatness, vice versa. Now you can throw him into the top 10 conversations of all time. Because skill-wise, he was always there. It's just like, that's the semantics argument of like greatness versus skill.
Do you think Giannis is there skill-wise?
I think...
Or is he going to just need to get more accolades?
He's actually not. So, you're right about that.
So I think his accolades will need to, especially because he has a big weakness. Like, Shaq's dominance was so undisputed that no one cares to talk about his skill. And if they do, they still have him top 10. Like, there's a very small amount of people that don't have Shaq top 10.
Yeah.
Giannis is in the same boat where, at the end of the day, it could have even been after his championship. And stupid me was kind of thinking, just not watching as much basketball. I was still watching a lot of basketball, but just being 3 or 4 years after, I was like, oh, Giannis, he has so many holes in his game. He can't do this. He can't do that. Yeah. But it's undisputed what dominance he has. He just needs the accolade. That's why I really don't think, like, at the end of the day, this decade so far, there's like 4 or 5 teams with 1 championship. Yeah. If Giannis really, for Giannis to get the respect of the people, he needs multiple. He needs. I think he needs to be the first person to get multiple. I think the second that Jason Tatum gets 2, now all of a sudden people will. And I'm not going to say for good or bad reason, because I love Jason Tatum. I think he's a great player. But people will start talking about Tatum more than Giannis, which people are actually talking about Tatum more than Giannis right now.
Well, yeah.
So that's only going to solidify that.
No, and you're definitely right about that. So I definitely see your point.
And maybe I just kind of. There's always going to be some super hater that's going to say, Steph Curry is too weak, all this kind of stuff. He needs the Finals MVP. But I do think I just care more about the masses and what they think. Yeah. And the masses weren't saying. Everyone kind of thought Steph Curry and KD were in that like top 15. Now you're going to have, if you know who Ticket TV is, you're going to have that outlier of him saying, well, KD's 27th because he didn't do it with his own team. And it's like, okay, dude. But like the masses right now, I think say that Jokic is going to be a better player when you look at careers and just how good they are than Giannis. So I think that for that reason, Giannis is so good where we do have to care about these little semantic things. It's not like he's a guy who's supposed to be lost in the sauce. He's not supposed to be, and with all due respect, Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis is going to be a guy who's known as a really great player, top 75, but we're not looking at him in like a top 20 of all time kind of light where you're arguing every little thing. You're looking at him as just an all-time great.
Yeah, I feel like Giannis falls more into the same category as like Kevin Garnett. Where it's like Kevin Garnett is an all-time great.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's top 20, at least based on accolades.
But by the way, Giannis has separated himself from KG. He has
You think Giannis is better than KG all time?
Double the MVPs. He has the Finals MVP, right? Didn't Paul Pierce win it?
Yeah, Paul Pierce won it.
He has the Finals MVP. He's a better scorer.
Corby, some people aren't going to be happy with that take.
I don't think that's a crazy take.
I don't feel like that's as solidified as you think. Like, I think people do still think that Kevin Garnett all time is better than Giannis. People will argue that Kevin Garnett is the best power forward of all time.
Oh, well then whatever, dude.
Which is like, again, a skill argument versus whatever. Tim Duncan's the best power forward of all time.
Yeah.
Are you saying, so number 2 is Dirk or?
I'm saying Giannis, because if you want to look at totals, then okay, Giannis doesn't have probably as many points, as many rebounds, whatever, because he hasn't played as long. Mm-hmm. But when Giannis ends his career, he will be known as the second greatest power forward of all time. And what I'm saying is, if he actually, because we look at Giannis's career, last 2 seasons, he was hurt during the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Before that, he lost because his role players couldn't hit a shot, and Boston was hitting everything.
Yeah.
Giannis won the championship the year before that. He's good enough where if his teammates hold up, he could win 3 or 4 rings. I'm not saying he'll ever be better than Tim Duncan. What I'm saying is he has a fighting chance. And as long as you have a fighting chance, you have something to prove.
He has a fighting chance to be better than Tim Duncan.
I mean, he'd have to do a lot of...
But he's on the ropes. He's on the ropes.
No, for sure. I'm saying he'd have to probably win another 3, 4 championships, right?
I think he'd have to win another 3. And then you can start making that... You can start having that conversation. Tim Duncan... I mean... You have no idea how good Tim Duncan was.
You have no idea how good Tim Duncan
was. But, I mean...
But he has a fighting chance where... Give it a couple more seasons, and then we'll be like, okay, it's too late. But he's in his prime still. What is he, like 30, 31?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying his game has too much longevity, but he's not going to be some scrub in 3 or 4 years.
No, but I mean...
And he's been, like, if we look at playoff numbers outside of, like, one series, which is versus Kawhi, he performs in the playoffs.
No, he does.
It's not Embiid. It's not Embiid.
It's just tough. It's the same boat that I find the Warriors in, which is that I think this year is Giannis's best year, or best opportunity to win a championship for the foreseeable future. Because Dame's only getting older. I don't think Kyle Kuzma is gonna take a significant leap anytime soon. He is the player that he is, right? And you look at the other Eastern Conference teams. Theoretically, the Cavs should get even better as as Evan Mobley refines his game more. Right. The Celtics are going to be the Celtics. The Knicks, another year of gelling with that core, they should, still be pretty good. I just, even the Pistons, if they added another piece next to Cade, all of a sudden you can throw that team up there. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think it'll be able to pick up, hopefully.
Yeah.
Honestly, okay, I want to get a little sidetracked real quick. Just in case you know. Was A.J. Johnson, he was drafted by the Bucks, right? He was like the really, really young player.
I think so, yeah.
I think they traded a first-round pick then for Kyle Kuzma. Because I'm just thinking I'm pretty sure he's on the Wizards now. So, because I was just thinking, while you're talking about, I'm like, yeah, the Bucks, obviously Brook Lopez is getting older.
And that's not, A.J. Green is the one that
right, he's
shoot.
The white guy.
He's the, yeah.
But I'm pretty sure they're the ones who drafted.
I didn't want to stereotype, but.
There's a guy named A.J. Johnson. Think so. I kind of want to just look it up, but or it was this really, really young guy. I think he came out of some international country. He only averaged like 3 points per game on terrible efficiency, but because everyone said he had so much potential, the Bucks drafted him in the first round.
Yeah,
I really hope it wasn't the Knicks that did it.
Well,
yeah, you can look it up real quick.
We got a computer. Here.
Their future isn't great. They have Brook Lopez. The Cavs are only getting older in a way like they're so young right now that
in a good way.
In a good way, yeah. Versus the Bucks are getting older in a bad way. But I do think. Okay, mate.
He is banished to purgatory. He is in Washington.
Wow. So they gave up multiple firsts? Did they give up first?
So I don't know. Yeah, he was drafted by the Bucks. So who did they give up?
Yeah, you go ahead and look that up. I'll say, okay, so how about this? If Giannis doesn't win a championship this season, then there's no way he cannot pass Tim Duncan. But I do think if he wins a championship this season, maybe the Bucks are a destination again. Maybe they can get some other guy.
Yeah. No, they are, but that's why this is. I mean, it's kind of they got Kyle Kuzma, Jericho Sims, and a second-round pick, and they gave up Chris Middleton, A.J. Johnson, and that must be their
did they give? Is that the Bucks swap? I'd assume
that's got to be the Bucks swap. DeLon Wright.
Yeah, the Bucks traded DeLon Wright.
And why did the Knicks get somebody? Oh, because of Jericho Sims.
Yeah.
And Spurs got Patrick Baldwin.
You want to know what's funny, though? Jericho Sims is a young center, which they need centers.
Yeah.
He wasn't getting minutes, though. They traded him for DeLon Wright, who they also don't give minutes to.
Yep.
It's like, why'd you just trade the younger guy for the older guy if neither are going to get minutes anyway?
I mean, God, that's...
Do you know how many guards they have?
That's got to be the worst trade in the NBA this year.
It's got to be.
Oh, Nico.
But, yeah, back to what I was saying. It is realistic to say that Giannis can be the second greatest power forward of all time. So he still has something to prove because being the second greatest power forward is very close to top 10. And I think he can get into top 10 talks, especially passing people. Like, if you still think Wilt's top 10. Okay, then again, if you think Wilt's top 10, I don't think anything Giannis can do will ever convince you Wilt's not top 10 because the thing Wilt's doing, it's like so crazy that like if you still think he's top 10, you always think he will.
Yeah, the thing about Wilt is that no one else is ever going to put up those numbers.
Yeah.
Again.
So unless someone somehow does, and then it's like fine.
If your opinion is Wilt is top 10, then that's just your forever.
Maybe eventually Wemby might do something so crazy that, but not. It'd have to be like blocks and rebounds.
That's like he'd have to get a quintuple double, like literally.
Not quadruple,
quintuple. Yeah.
But yeah, what were we talking about? I guess MVP.
Jesus.
we get so sidetracked.
Yeah.
MVP. Either way, this game might also mean a lot.
Yeah.
For some reason, I kind of think just the first game means a little bit more. But
well, it's prime time on ABC. Like,
yeah,
I guess 11 in the morning after daylight savings. Like,
oh yeah,
kind of prime time. But people were just waking up.
I know. I was so excited. I got
making their morning coffee and realized that the two leading MVP candidates were playing.
And it really was a good game because it's like the role players weren't doing too much, though, to take away from the MVPs.
No, but I think it made me more excited for a series between the two teams than it did for the MVP race.
I can't wait. Yeah.
Like, I really hope. I mean, I have my hopes for what will happen, obviously.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I really do hope we get like a conference finals between Denver and Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
Right.
Because the Lakers are going to make the playoffs for a while. I don't want to see them. But then you could say the same thing about the Thunder, I guess.
But it's not the Lakers. It's not the Lakers. It's LeBron.
And Luka.
But yeah, I mean, I get that. But
you're saying we'd want to see it because of LeBron.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Like I would want to, like, same reason, with the Warriors, it's like the Warriors have probably become a destination in what they've done over the last 10 years, right?
Yeah.
I think they will become like a one of those teams where they can just sign a free agent, like a big name free agent once every like 5-6 years or something like that, and constantly remain relevant. So, seeing the Warriors go far is not about the Warriors' success, especially because I'm sure people are sick of seeing them. It's like if you appreciate Steph Curry, if you appreciate LeBron James, even if you appreciate Kevin Durant, even though Phoenix sucks, you want to see those guys go far one last time, right?
Yeah. But it's like, how many times? You know what I mean? Like, we said that about LeBron. We said that about LeBron, and LeBron made the Western Conference Finals 2 years ago.
Yeah. And
it's like, to some degree...
Well, Corby, you only get so many times. That's the thing, is you ask how many times, but eventually there's going to be a never again, and you're going to look back and be like, damn, I wish I could get one more time. You know?
You're not wrong. Honestly... The teams in the West, there's not that many that I'm like, I'd much rather watch them than the Lakers or Warriors. Yeah. It's like, it might just be the Thunder, honestly. Because also the Grizzlies are so young, they're going to have their time. The Rockets are so young.
I like watching the Rockets. That's an aggressive-ass team.
I do like watching the Rockets. It's just,
they're mean as shit. I like them.
I love Dylan Brooks.
You never know. One of them swinging on somebody during the game. You don't know which one of them. But
I never thought of Amen Thompson as a guy who'd just be like that too. Like going into the draft, like he just seemed like, that's a nice guy. But no, he's just,
what a good guy. I hope he never like throws Devin Booker to the ground.
He's probably got at least like 5 flagrants this season, if not more.
How does he not have more texts than Anthony Edwards? That's what I'm wondering.
Does he not? Well, probably because Anthony Edwards probably gets one every single game. That's probably why.
Every single game, yeah. He's got 64 texts.
Hey man, I do love to talk.
Yeah, I mean, hey.
What do you want to talk about next?
Yeah, what do we want to talk about?
I mean, MVP. It's not. It's just. I don't care to have a final agreement or solution.
No, because I'm not.
20 games.
Yeah, we already know. Whatever.
And like, I really.
It's fine.
Honestly, I love talking about the MVP, but at the same time, I don't. Like, it's just an award, and I'd rather just appreciate both their seasons.
I know, and that's the way I feel too. Is like I said at the very beginning, whoever wins this, I'm gonna be happy, right? Because both of them earned it. Now, if Jason Tatum wins MVP, then we're gonna have to have a conversation. But
hey,
and that's not any slight against Jason Tatum.
Fault.
He's just in the next tier down.
Yeah.
Is he in the next tier down? That's a conversation. I mean, do you feel like he's really elevated himself to that top level of players?
No, but I don't think there's anything wrong with being like if we say Giannis, Jokic, let's just keep Luka in there because like I have to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah,
Luka and Shai is the top 4. Tatum could be the number 5, and that's great, and that's still like if it equals playoff success, which by the way, even though he hasn't won a Finals MVP, and even though he's only won 1 championship, he's still consistently been and performed in the playoffs. I think like and I don't think, and people who say like Tatum's always had it nice, they're right. They are right.
Yeah,
Tatum's had like 1 season maybe of having a bad team, and that was like when Kyrie left, and it was just like Kemba, and it was literally Kemba, Marcus Smart, Brown, Tatum, and then like their bench wasn't that good. It was like the first year of Peyton Pritchard. That's 1 season they've had it bad.
The first year of Peyton Pritchard.
I didn't know who he was.
I'm sorry. Is that how we're? That's how we're dividing up the like eras of the Celtics.
Yeah,
there's like the big 3 era, and then the rebuild era, and then the Kyrie era, and now we're in the Peyton Pritchard era.
Yes, exactly.
You know what? I'm here for it. Give me
that's so good
trade Jason Tatum, trade Jaylen Brown, release Porzingis, give Pritchard and Derek White the keys.
No, look, I'd never say that Pritchard's good enough where you'd want to build around him. Never. I'd never say that.
No.
But like people who talked about how he wouldn't be as good in any other situation but Boston, I think you give him more shots and he'd just be even better. Like there's so many guards now. Like you can't compare him to like a Trey or Halliburton or something like that. But like that dude could put up 20 on a bad team.
Yeah.
Actually, I think he does that now on a good team.
But he belongs on the Celtics.
Oh,
I mean, you take one look at him and you're like, yeah, you could be from Southie.
Yeah.
You know, you belong on the Celtics, and there's nothing wrong with that.
I actually think he looks like he has a Boston accent.
Yeah. Do you think they actually like start to develop a Boston accent from living there long enough, or do you think it never gets to that point?
I think it never gets to that point.
God, that'd be great though, wouldn't it? Can you imagine if NBA players started developing the accents of the places that they went to? Like, can you imagine if Wemby, like year 8, year 9,
dude, had a southern
accent? You know,
I couldn't even imagine. I don't even want to do the impression. That's something I'd have to prepare for.
You'd
like,
have to
say
like
as a Southern. Like
I don't know what would he say as a. Well, you know, I take my ass out on the court, you know, and I'm long, I'm lanky, I can get up there, I can touch the stars, I can hang them like constellations, and you know, I used to be long in the arms like a baguette. Now I'm long in the arms like a riding crop.
Well, yeah, I love basketball, but I just first I need to take care of my pigs in the morning. I need to wash the dishes.
Yeah,
I'm just a good old family man. And then if I had to put the ball in the basket, then that's just what I got to do to support my family.
You know, it ain't much, but it's honest work. At the end of the day, you know, I go out, I grab a ball made from the finest leather. And I'll tell you what, that is the finest leather I ever did touch, and I know leather. Okay. I go out there, I grab that ball, I put it in the basket, made of nylon, dirty material. I hate it. An artificial material. Never sat right with me, but I do it. I do it because I stand on my moral grounds. And then I go home. I go home to my firm. I go to the firm. I go out to the corral. I get on old Bessie, my old horse, and I ride off. Feet dragging on the ground because I can't find a horse tall enough for my feet to get off the ground, but I'd be riding. Do you think actually like
Wemby couldn't ride a horse?
Do you think if he's riding a horse, like, you know how people ride a motorcycle and when they're at a stoplight they'll like put their feet down?
Yeah.
Do you think he does that when he's like he wants the horse to stop? Just like digs his heels into the ground and is like, whoa!
I don't even think he's risked himself to put himself on a horse. By the way, yeah.
You don't think he's risked?
I don't know.
He doesn't even have to. I don't think he gets up much higher than he already is.
No.
Like the fall is gonna be the same as if he's like laying down on his bed at the end of the night.
That was our impression of Wemby in the press conference. If he was a Southern guy,
yeah.
If the reporter asked like, "How's your day going?"
What's up with you today?
How did you perform today on the court? Well.
By the way, I apologize to all Southerners I know.
Oh, don't.
You have the right to do it, but you know, I don't know. Who do I even? God, there's like been one Indian player ever. Simbola.
What a guy. Simbola.
What a guy.
I actually don't know what a guy he was.
Just the biggest Indian ever. Like, you got like the great Kali, him. Probably me and then everybody else. Like, I don't think how many other 6'3" Indians are there?
There's no, like, you don't see any Indians just like sumo wrestling or anything. You know what I mean?
Well,
like,
Corby, that's because sumo wrestling is Japanese.
oh, whatever.
We don't
I
have
could do it.
we don't have sumo. Yeah, you could do it.
You don't see any Indian guys like O-line for the Raiders. You know?
I don't think Indian like. When was the last time, like Corby? When was the last time you saw an Indian guy play an American sport? You ever seen an Indian baseball player? An Indian like football player? You ever seen an Indian hockey player?
That's crazy.
Like, they just don't. I don't know why. I don't get it. But hey, cricket.
I know. They've seen Stibular. They know how good they can be. That dude lasted like a good year in the NBA. Like,
yeah, I think
every time he dunked, he actually shook the ground. Like,
the ground shook beneath his feet. Oh my goodness! But
yeah.
Oh no! Like, no, that'd be great. Like, what other accent would you want to see? Like, I guess, can you imagine LeBron with a Valley Girl accent from living in LA?
I couldn't imagine that. I don't want to.
I'd love it.
One day we used to prepare a bunch of accents to do. Just
impressions. Yeah. Dude, I'll get it. I'll get it prepared.
That'd be a fire series.
Yeah. Dude, this is why we need an expansion team in Britain. We need a Ted Lasso that shit.
We need Jeremy Sohan to play there. Wait,
he's already British.
I know.
Yeah.
It would just
so it wouldn't be fun. It would be funny. It would just be normal.
I think everyone would know he's British.
There's no humor in that.
No one knows he's British right now.
I know he's British, and now you do too.
Yeah, because you had to point it out to me.
No, you pointed it out to me.
No, I just thought he was stupid. That's not even like a joke. Like, I know that's what I pointed out to you. I'm like, you know, he just sounds stupid. No, he's British.
Oh.
Okay. Is there a different topic we want to cover?
I don't know. We could talk about Jeremy Lamb.
You want to explain the whole Jeremy Lamb thing?
Yeah.
I know most of it, but
yeah. So if you haven't heard of Jeremy Lamb, where have you been? But no, Jeremy Lamb, solid role player, has played for the Kings for the last few years, I think 3 years now, and was with their G League affiliate at the same time that the owner's daughter was the assistant GM for the G League affiliate. They're the Stockton something or another.
Yeah.
They play in Stockton, California. Jeremy Lamb initiated... Well, I don't know if he initiated it, but there was a relationship initiated between him and the assistant GM of the G League affiliate of the Sacramento Kings, who happened to be the Sacramento Kings owner's daughter. And that's an ongoing relationship. I'm fairly sure they're still in a relationship. Don't know why, he hasn't put a ring on it yet, but
right.
So this is something that has been a part of the Kings organization for a good bit. And something that players have noted a couple times in the past as being something that makes them uncomfortable because, one of your fellow players is dating your boss's daughter. It kind of creates some weird power dynamics. So anyway, comes out that the firing of Mike Brown actually had a lot to do with the opinions of the owner's daughter and Jeremy Lamb. So Jeremy Lamb was actually one of the instrumental parts in getting Mike Brown fired, which De'Aaron Fox didn't like at all. Right. De'Aaron Fox was a big fan of Mike Brown as coach. And so De'Aaron Fox, in not wanting to sign a contract extension with the team, cited the fact that Jeremy Lamb dating the owner's daughter made him feel like there was a lot of instability within the organization. And he couldn't trust them to make their own decisions.
Oh, really?
Which inevitably led to him requesting a trade.
Okay.
And now Domantas Sabonis, even though he's on a multi-year deal, is hesitant about continuing his career with the Kings because of that same fact. So if you're a Sacramento Kings fan looking for someone to be mad at, there's a roughly 6'5" kind of light-skinned shooting guard who might either be on your G League team or, on your NBA team, depending on how good he was last night.
Just making decisions.
Yeah.
Because, De'Aaron Fox said that, and it was a great point. Yeah. He's been with the team, 7 years or something like that? Mm-hmm. There were 5 different coaches before Mike Brown got fired.
Mm-hmm.
You can't like if there's a coach, which is by the way really funny. He goes to the Spurs, and then Popovich says he's not coaching the rest of the season. So Fox has already played for 2 coaches technically on the Spurs in like 15 games. But
I hope Pop gets better.
I do too, and I think Pop when he gets better, and I'm just calling out into existence when he gets better because he will.
Yeah, him and Wemby both.
Yeah. He will be back on the Spurs, and Fox will be back to just having one coach. But yeah, you can't like having that many coaches. At some point, it's like it can't be the coaching. Yeah, I'm not saying that was on Fox ever; it wasn't. But like you have to make a different move. And personally, I don't think getting DeMar DeRozan was that move. So to blame it all on Mike Brown, and like the second Mike Brown got fired, the Kings went on like a 7-game win streak or something.
Yeah, but I mean,
it toned down.
Yeah, I mean, and where they're at now, they're playing solid, but obviously no De'Aaron Fox. You know, it's just. It's funny because it reminds me of the whole Lakers situation with Phil Jackson when he was dating Jeannie Buss.
Oh, yeah.
But it's so much weirder than that because to be an active player on an NBA team and you are dating your boss, essentially, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess she's not his boss anymore because this was another thing. She became the GM of the Stockton. They might be the Stockton Kings. I don't know.
Okay.
So the G League affiliate. And then one of the players on that team got charged with murder.
Oh, right, yeah.
And then she like stepped down a few weeks after that. Which is another like
wait, why would she
what is going on in Stockton? Like what's in the water? But I don't know why she stepped down. It was just maybe it might not have even been a few weeks after, but it was recently enough after that it was noted in the article, but it wasn't necessarily because of that. You know?
Yeah. You know what, though? And people hated on it at first, but that De'Aaron Fox trade package, if Jeremy Lamb was part of that, too, they got a little bit back. You know? Like let's be real. The Kings did not have any leverage whatsoever. And I really don't think that teams were just fighting to get Fox. Yeah. Like, as much as he was in, like, was it, like, the Rockets rumors or whatever, Fox admitted that he was only going to go to the Spurs. Like, it was never any other team. Yeah. So the fact that they got multiple first-round picks, Fox isn't some superstar. Like, he's a great player. But I think getting multiple picks for him, it sucks for the Kings. But if it had to happen, that's not a bad package. That's what I think about the Hawks, actually. Like, if we had to trade Trae Young and we got multiple picks for him, I'd be happy. Now, ideally, I kind of just want him to stay so that we don't get that little back. But if we lose all leverage and still get multiple picks, it's like that's
you can live with that.
Yeah, it's not a big loss.
No, I mean I think overall the situation just highlights the dysfunction of the Kings organization, which has been the case for a long time. Yeah. I think just their organization in general has had a lack of consistency, and I think if they did, they have. I mean, even now, like Levine's only 28, 29. Sabonis is 28. Like, there's a team to build around there. DeRozan's kind of coming to the end of his prime years, right? Yeah. But there's a team to build around there. I think they still have an opportunity. Really good players.
They have Keon Ellis. They have obviously Zach LaVine, Malik Monk. Man, I have not been watching the Kings. Who else do they have again? Besides
Malik Monk hasn't even been he's been
he has been recently. They obviously have he hasn't progressed much, but Keegan Murray. Man, the vibes and the aura of that King. Yeah. If aura was a popular term back in that year of the Kings going crazy,
yeah,
that's all people would be talking. All people would be labeling it as aura.
Yeah.
If you watched the Kings game and saw all their fans, and their fans are so passionate. Obviously, we have Bjorn, who's our friend, who is a Kings fan. I have an uncle who's a Kings fan, and he loves it.
Is he still a Kings fan, or is he a Fox fan?
I think I think it's kind of like how Dame fans, which is ironic because he used to be a Dame fan.
Yeah.
But Dame fans are both Blazers and Bucks fans. I think it's kind of like that. I think he's probably both.
But yeah, no.
Shout out to Jeremy Lamb. Sipping your way to the top as a man is like the ultimate power move and something everyone wishes to do, whether they want to admit it or not, whether they're married or not.
Listen, look, we as men, we like to sit here and pretend like we wouldn't. We would. Yeah, I would. Like,
pretend?
I feel like men will like pretend like, oh, I would never do that. Why would a woman do that? Yes, you would. Yes, you would. I'm sorry. And I'm just gonna say it. Men and women dominated fields. We need more of it.
I know.
You know?
Like, you get a promotion and you're happy.
Yeah.
That's like a win-win.
Dude, hell yeah.
You're not even working that much harder.
Now here's the thing. He can never leave that relationship.
Oh, right. Yeah, his job's on the line.
Like, can you imagine if you break up with the owner's daughter?
Oh, you're done. Especially if you messed up.
You're getting exiled. You like, I don't know where is the worst place in the NBA? It's probably Charlotte.
I was gonna say Charlotte.
Wasn't he there?
Yeah, he was.
That's actually where
he was he was drafted there. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was like a high draft pick, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. He used to cook my ass in, like, what was it, 2K17? No, maybe it was 14. Dude, he's been in the league for a minute.
Yeah, a minute, and he was never too good. But yeah, shout out. He found a career route that he was very good at advancing in.
Yep.
By the way, I just want to say that, dude, this girl just walked out in booty shorts. This was like 5 minutes ago. I did not want to say anything, but I'm like,
Corey, God.
I could cut that out. I might not. You never know. But
you never know.
But I was like, but you were like in the middle of a monologue, and you might, even if we look back at the video, my mouth, like, my jaw dropped. But I didn't want to say anything because
Corby.
It's also really funny how like there's people walking through. I wonder if they could see us because I didn't.
Oh yeah,
see,
they can definitely see us.
Oh, because I didn't see. I guess was it closed? Because I couldn't see anything.
There was a girl walk by earlier. She like looked down in here, and your back was turned, so you didn't see it. But
oh really?
Yeah, she like looked you up and down. She like looked at me and went like this, and she went like, I want him.
Why didn't you tell me this? Why?
I think it was the same girl that just walked by.
Really?
No.
That was stupid. That actually happened. Yeah. All right, cool. That was like 3 different topics covered in
God,
an
that
hour.
was more than
I know. No, like when you talk about actual topics, it was 3.
Yeah.
It's just we went sidetracked, but
we might have talked about like 7 different things.
Yeah.
Hey, you're getting all the bang for your buck.
All right, cool.
If this is the type of bang you want. But,
you guys enjoyed? Yep. Like and subscribe. It'd mean a lot. Comment down just anything you want us to talk about. And peace out.
I'll see you.